Hi, thank you so much for joining this episode of Trauma Rock Stars. I'm so excited for everybody to meet Craig. He's quite the personality. He's a larger than life guy. You're gonna have a lot of fun listening to this, and he's got a lot of great life lessons, and he's been through quite a bit of reinvention himself several times. So I want to introduce him and his story, and I think this is going to be a really fun, informative episode. So thank you so much for joining. And Craig, welcome to Trauma Rockstars.
Thank you.
So we had talked, and I have just so many notes from when we had talked about your journey and everything. And where do you want to start? Do you want to go back to, you're in Mexico now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Merida.
Yeah. So you want to kind of go back because you have survived lung cancer because of 9/11.
Yeah.
And it kind of, that whole experience when 9/11 happened, and the story that you told me with everything and how you got exposed and where you were when it all happened. Can you share that with everyone? Because it was quite a...
Sure, I appreciate it. Yeah, so I was in Jersey City at the time with my daughter's mom, who was my fiance at the time. And I came out of my house on First Street in Jersey City. And as I was walking down the street, I had a pretty good view of the towers, and one of them was on fire. And I went around the corner to get my daughter's mom, and she was a photographer at the time. And I told her to grab her cameras and let's go. And she's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I have no idea, but one of them's on fire." And I believe by the time we got down there, I think both of them were. And we were standing on the banks of the Hudson River, which is right across from New York City. And we watched the first tower fall. And she has like dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures as they're coming down. It was complete pandemonium. Sirens, horns, loudspeakers going crazy. And we ended up...
It had to have been surreal to watch.
It looked like a movie. It looked like a movie set. Yeah, it was really wild. And we ended up walking back because nobody knew what was going to happen after this thing fell. They didn't know if there was going to be a tsunami across the river. Like, nobody knew anything, right? And we ended up going to this little cutoff place, going to Liberty State Park. And as we were walking to that, that's when the second tower. And she has more of those pictures. And it was just like, what the hell is going on, man? Right? And as we got into the park, and this is all like 20 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes kind of deal. And they started bringing people over, covered in soot, bloodied up and beat up and all this nonsense. And I was like, I have to get there, man. I've been in construction my whole life. I figured I'd be best served going there. And, it took me a couple days to get there, man. It was wild because everything was shut down. And we ended up sitting for literally a day and a half on the side by Exchange Place. And they started bringing more people over, and we were doing the thing, like helping, wash them down, take their hats off, their vests, all that stuff. And it was, I believe it was the second day. First day it happened. Second day, we tried to get across, and they wouldn't let us out at Battery Park. And we came back, and it was the next day that we were doing the same thing, helping people coming off and all of that. And it was like, crowds cheering, crying, like complete pandemonium. And somebody was like, "Hey, come on, let's go." And I had swiped a hard hat. I had a Tyvek suit because I was working on one of my houses at the time, and got there. But on the boat, we were just like, what are all of these buckets for? There was hundreds and hundreds of buckets. And what happened was I ended up carrying buckets through the atrium. People would just point and go that way, go that way, go that way. And going through the atrium, and I walked up to this, past the restaurant, saw a bunch of bags, didn't want to know what was in them. It was just piled up. And I got to this plate window that was blown out. And I couldn't see in front of me, but I could see to the side, right? And plus it was dark and smoky and all that stuff. And I took the buckets and I placed them over the knee wall. And as I was stepping over, this huge alarm went off. And all you heard was "run." And I'm laughing because it was so surreal, right? And it was like, I can't believe I'm here. What am I doing here, kind of thing. And we had to run for our life because we ran around the building, got back to the river, and then like 20 minutes later, half hour later, went back, and where I put my buckets down, a facade had fallen on the buckets. So that was my introduction to being at 9/11.
Because there
And
was still debris flying everywhere. Is that?
well, it was so like there was nothing secure, right?
Yeah.
So at that building, the alarms went off. The front facade had fallen on my buckets, and I was on a bucket brigade, and I was driving a Bobcat. And to this day, like I don't have people are like, well, how do you not have emotional attachment to it? It's like it's 24 years later, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an event that's been in my psyche forever, and I've done the mental work on myself to be able to
Mm-hmm.
cut the emotional attachment. And there's a lot of people, there's tens of thousands of people right now that's sick and dying.
And you ended up working, you said, in the Lincoln Tunnel
No, at the World Trade Center.
or at the World Trade Center. Okay. Okay.
Like
So
literally standing on top of the World Trade Center after it collapsed.
after a collapse, because that second, I mean, we all remember it went down fast. I mean, it went down with and you think because, you were in, God only knows what you were inhaling, you end up getting lung cancer. How many days were you working at the World Trade Center?
So here's the thing, I was only there for 2 days.
Yeah.
The problem was it was the 2 days that I was there, because to get any kind of like medical attention or anything like that, or compensation, you had to be there 4 hours of the first 5 days. I was there 2 days of the first 5 days. So it started affecting my health. I had a collapsed lobe in my right lung in 2012 while I was down in Merida, because we raised my daughter here for like 7 years. And I started getting sick in 2012, and I was diagnosed with a rare carcinoid tumor in my lung that is one of the 68 or 69 cancers that people develop. So they knew it was a direct link.
Yeah. And, just for 2 days, you're trying to help out and,
I never looked back 11
Yeah.
years later until, and people were like, oh, you got to get in touch with these attorneys and all that. I was like, for what? I was only there for 2 days, man.
Yeah.
Hit the wrong lotto.
I've never talked to anybody who has worked that right, like in the thick of things when it happened. Did you like get PTSD from it, from
Well,
experiencing that?
yeah, I was certified with post-traumatic stress disorder, because there was a few incidences that like I would wake up in the middle of the night and just freak out.
Yeah.
There was some things that happened that I just couldn't mentally compute. And over the years, like I didn't really think about that stuff until like I think it was 3 years later. My ex-wife and I created a 30-door portfolio in real estate. We got hit by 2 hurricanes in 3 weeks, so that kind of took the recall back, because the houses were decimated and all of that. And I just never really dealt with it, and it just kept progressing more and more as time went on.
So after your 2 days there, did you go back to working your regular gig? You were doing construction and stuff like that?
Well, I was in the middle of selling one property and selling the other one to my partner, because I was actually getting married in Florida, October 27th of 2001.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, it was
Right
the only reason why I
after.
was there for a couple of days, because I was still finishing my projects.
Right.
And it was wild, because I know I drove down there and I remember flying back or something like that. And that whole time period, it was really chaotic. And I remember at my wedding, because we were going to get married on the beach, and my brother and his friends were all police officers in the location that we were at. And I made sure everybody had weapons, because I was marrying a Hindu girl. And there's no difference in Florida between a Hindu and a Muslim. And the way the clothes are and everything, we just made sure that there was nothing that was going to be stupid going on to our way.
Yeah, it was so close to everybody. There was so much fear. Like
Absolutely.
It was so much. I'm in Florida. Did I tell you that? I live in
You're
Florida.
on the West Coast?
West Coast, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to talk about, because I know we briefly talked about psychedelics and DMT and all that. Do you want to, is this a good segue into that?
Sure, because that's one of the things that really helped me develop a different mindset, right? Because while I was living in Mexico, I was in the process of writing my first book, and it's called Everybody Pays a Vig. There was a part, the first part like my book was really coded and done, but there was a first part I couldn't break through, and I was being molested as a kid. And then it was like drug addiction, and then it was, you know, bankruptcies, and, you know, losing houses and cars, and it progressed so much where I used to speak at convention centers. We were one of the first online repositories of owner finance and lease purchase properties in the world in 2004, let's say. 2004, 2005. And I used to walk off stage getting all these accolades, and I used to think I was a piece of shit. And it was because I never really dealt with anything, right? So fast forward into like 2010, 11, when I was in Mexico, I was mentored by somebody that threw me down a bunch of rabbit holes. And eventually he was like, hey, man, the only thing that's going to get your head straight is DMT. And I was like, I don't even know what DMT is.
Yeah, you're going to have to, what does it stand for again?
Dimethyltryptamine. It's what our pineal gland produces, as well as our lungs. It gives us our vivid dreams. It gives us our vivid hallucinations, let's say the colors and all of that stuff. It's the pineal gland does. And it's kind of funny because I had no clue. And I went to go speak at a radio show in Atlanta from Merida, and had a buddy of mine, and out of nowhere, he's like, hey man, have you ever heard of DMT? I was like, coincidental? I don't think so. So he ended up giving me a mint tin full of DMT. And he ended up giving me the MOI inhibitor in the same size tin. I ended up, for 2.5 years, I ended up exploring dimethyltryptamine as well as ayahuasca. And I've done it well over 300 times. Really helped me get over my mental PTSD, stinking thinking kind of thing. And it wasn't until I started studying more about epigenetics while I was going through the lung cancer stuff that I started to put everything together. I started to really break down mentally who I was and why I'm actually here on this volcanic meatball. And it's to help people understand that you don't have time. Right? I've been diagnosed with 4 different illnesses from 9/11, and I continue to have health issues. And between the psychedelics and epigenetics, I've created a different way of thinking for myself, where I understand that when we have heart and brain coherence mentally, because you got to spend time in your temple, this is the only real estate we could own, people are afraid to tap into their dark. I believe I've always been interested in the mind. Years before, I had the ability to go to Jamaica and live with the bush with somebody that was savant, and no electricity, no water. And he showed me what the mind can do and how we freak ourselves out because we don't know who we actually are. And once we start facing like all our fears, our insecurities, self-sabotaging behaviors, because we all have them.
Yeah.
People think that it's like, no, you know, these guys don't have it, you know, they've gotten their shit together and they're no longer. No, this is an ongoing conversation we have to have with ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and I've just been amazed at how I've been able to transform my life. And as I'm doing that consistently, I help thousands of people around the world get out of their stinking thinking and alchemize everything that is thrown at them, literally.
Yeah. Do you before you started the psychedelics, and now you've done it so many times, so you're so in tune with that. But where do you think how your mind was functioning before this? Where did that come from? Did it come from childhood?
I was molested when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I had a knee surgery. Well, I blew my knee out when I was like 13, 14 years old. And excuse me. And what happened was my knee swelled up so much, and it wasn't the time where we had cell phones and nothing, right?
Right.
So we had to wait for the coach to come, and then the coach had to take me, and then my mom had to take me because my father had the one car the family had.
Yep.
You know, and we went to the doctor, and I got an X-ray, and it was the first time that I got a pain medicine. And the first pill that I took, number one, the pain in my knee went away. But number two, the mental pain that I had from being molested went away too. I became addicted to pain meds.
At 13?
13, 14, yeah,
Wow.
something around that.
Yeah, that's too bad.
And it went into my like mid to late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I was basically high for 15 years.
At what point, say when you're, say 24, 25 years old, did you realize like I have a problem?
When I was snorting cocaine and taking pills at the same time.
Okay.
And I was one of those guys. I've always had a strong mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with a family that was mentally resilient. And my dad was a flamethrower in the Marines, 17 years old. His job was burning down villages in Korea. My mom was sick she had gotten into a car accident during menopause, and she was sick for like 16 years before she passed away. So I've always been into this mentally tough environment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like, you suck it up and keep moving. Suck it up and keep moving, no matter what happens. And I believe like I was doing psychedelics when I was a kid. And, I really liked them because it made my mind feel different. It made me exploratory. I grew up near a park when I was a young kid. So I was exploring trees and doing all kinds of wild stuff in nature, but lived in North Bergen, New Jersey, which was like, kind of city. I've been on this, I've always felt different, right? Like the day I was born, I was in the same hospital when my grandmother died the night before.
Oh,
so
geez.
that always like stuck with me for some reason. And I've always entertained different mental puzzles in my life. I've always felt like if I can get myself in trouble and I knew I'd get out of it kind of thing. And I've always pushed boundaries, always. Whole life I've been pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
Now I just turned 60 years old and I feel like a little kid again. I feel giddy.
Now that you know what you know now, I don't know. I guess I could just speak for myself and you could tell me if you agree with me. But do you look back and you're like I was so clueless. I hadn't even tipped the iceberg to what I'm capable of, not just mentally, but physically, emotionally, everything.
It's been real, like hindsight is everything now, right? I mean, I live in the middle of the Mayan Empire, so I go to the pyramids, I do the meditations, I do all of these mind tricks for myself because it's a continuing education. So I look back on my life and I'm like, you know what? That's funny, man. I knew I was going to do that and I knew I was going to get away with it. I knew I was going to do that and I was going to get away with it. And while I was going through things in my younger years, right? I was talking to my brother about this the other day. He's like, you've always just never had fear. You just kept going. And I was like trying to explain, like, I don't know, I've always had an inner knowing of something. And when I started really tapping into it, things became more clear. And it was like I was always testing my mental resilience. And it got me in a lot of trouble, I won't lie. A lot of trouble throughout my life. And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, and I'm an old dude now, and I'm like, a lot of things make sense. And I don't know, I encourage people to think about their life in a different way.
And
I
try
really
to
do.
see
And I get
things
passionate about it.
differently. Yeah. Were you afraid
absolutely.
trying the DMT and what was the other one you said? The psychedelic?
Mushrooms, peyote,
Yeah. Were you afraid
LSD.
that addiction aspect of it with those?
See,
I know
the thing about
it's a
psychedelics, to me, psychedelics is like plant medicine, right? Like I've been on drugs. Like my last round, for years, I was on morphine, Dilaudid, Percocets, Percodan, and they did nothing for the physical pain that I had. Because after my 9-hour lung surgery, I developed peripheral neuropathy. And it was probably the worst pain I could possibly ever like compare anything to.
Yeah.
I had to, I never really weaned myself. I just stopped cold turkey because I had the mental resilience to be able to do that. I don't recommend it to people.
Right.
Because I've gone through the physical shakes, detox, vomiting kind of stuff and all of that. However, that being said, I believe that our minds can shut things off if we shut off the TV, if we, get into semiotic frequencies and just like I always listen to frequencies. I always listen to, instead of songs, like 936. There are so many things that we can tap into our subconscious behavior without the psychedelics. Like I can put myself in certain states. Sometimes I sleep 2 hours a night. People are like, oh, that's ridiculous. No, but I could tap into REM immediately.
Really?
I've altered my states for years.
Wow.
So I'm at this point in my life where I share these experiences with people because you can tap into altered states. You don't have to sit there and be stressed out all the time.
Yeah.
Living in fear every day is not the way to thrive in life. It's survival mechanisms. Because when we're born, as soon as we come out of the womb, we're screaming. We have fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
Our mind is designed to shut us off.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what? There's a saber-toothed tiger around the corner. We're not being chased by saber-toothed tigers anymore. But we still have that mental capability of stopping ourselves dead in the track because you got into a fight with your spouse, or you don't like your job, or you have some kind of stress over money, or you lose a house, or how is society going to look at me? What are people going to say if I'm different? I've gotten to that point where like I said, I'm 60. I really don't care. I just don't.
Yeah. Well, there's there's an amazing book. It's called The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And it's an amazing, and to be able to actually have that mindset and not worry about what people think, that's freedom. Like that's ultimate freedom.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
said to me, and I wrote this down, and I don't know if you remember when we were talking, but you said what they don't want you to know. Can you elaborate? Was it a episode on
it's things they don't want you to know, DMT.
Okay.
And it's about how it's 4 minutes long.
Okay.
On YouTube. And it's kind of like the shamans of yesteryear, right? They discovered something out of all the thousands of plants and leaves, and they found out that there's a root and DMT is in mostly everything. Okay. And when it's synthesized, it's smoked. Okay. And the only way I could really express is it's called the spirit molecule. Okay. So when you take your first hit, okay, your whole body just feels like it just got turned on. Okay. And when the second hit is in full swing, you ever look on a paved road when it's very hot and you see that shimmering? Yeah. Well, the walls start doing that. And then you start hearing plastic crankle, man. And when and it's going to sound really bizarre. You're going to be like, who is this guy?
No. I'm fascinated.
But when you're ready to pass out, that's when you take the third hit. And what that does is that puts you back. That makes you sit back, buckle up, because you're going to be transcended into something you ain't ever experienced. And this is actually what they give the Jesuits at the Vatican once they graduate. It's part of the matrix. It's the red pill, blue pill. Yeah.
What is it called?
I'm sorry?
What's it called at the Vatican?
It's what they give to the Jesuits when they graduate the Vatican.
Okay.
This is a very old lineage.
This is interesting.
This is a very old tradition in many cultures. They used to have sweat lodges and stuff. Well, yeah. Some of the sweat lodges, they were over vents that would they would ingest certain things from these vents and it would put them into a hallucinated state.
Yeah.
And I believe I'm here. Disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed, man. Because I don't want people to walk around. I know the first thing I tell everybody that gets diagnosed with cancer, first thing you think is you're going to die. Maybe not. So you're already going through that mind fuck, okay? That, oh shit, my life is over with. Mm-hmm. Well, I think if somebody took some psychedelics, right, you'd relieve yourself of that mental stress while you're going through your therapies.
Interesting.
Right? Because what it does is it shuts down that stress PTSD level. It shuts down that holy shit anxiety kind of. Mm-hmm. And research is showing that this is what they were taking at Silicon Valley to problem solve. Because it's not taking the pharmaceuticals. You're not taking the psychotropic drugs. This is relieving people of their mental stress. And I think it was a handful of shrooms or whatever will help you for 6 months, or MDMA or
That's LSD. What I did, MDMA.
Yeah, it's just a different psychedelic and it shuts down. I wanted to go do Ibogaine, but I mean, down here they charge $10,000 for it.
What is it?
So DMT is grandmother, right? Mm-hmm. Ibogaine is grandfather. And supposedly that fucker walks around with you for a while. And, oh no, don't do that, Tracy. Oh no, don't do that. So it's correcting your behavior.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they give this stuff to drug addicts because DMT is 10 minutes, man. 10 minutes. And you come back and it's just what the hell was that? Nobody told me about this stuff. But if you if you go into ancient cultures and civilizations, they've been doing this stuff for thousands of years, man.
Yeah.
That's why the shamans used to be able to tell people certain things
Mm.
because they were put into hallucinated states. And the thing is, it's like when it comes to DMT, which they say is the most psycho compound on planet Earth. I don't know about that because I know people lick the toad and they peyote ceremonies, and there's so many different psychedelics. I just found dimethyltryptamine at a time when I needed dimethyltryptamine.
And now that you're so, I mean, because you actively do this now, do you do it daily or just as you need it?
No. So it sounds really weird, but anybody that knows me, like when I get called, sometimes I just kick and scream, man. I'm like, fuck, I gotta go do this shit. And I get downloads. Into like, I did it last week. And it was like, the only thing I got out of it was teach them. That was the end result. It was teach them. And I was like, for 5 days, like, teach them what? What the fuck am I supposed to do? And now I understand because it's my calling. It might not be somebody else's.
Yeah, it's different for everyone.
Yeah. So like I have all of these stories and experiences that I've lived through, and now I'm thriving through them. Right. I help thousands of people around the world, man.
Yeah.
I mean, how can I look at it as like a curse? I look at it as like a blessed curse.
A gift.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say gift. It's like my calling.
Yeah. See, I feel like with my MDMA experience, like that was a total gift for me. It was incredible. Same type of thing, but just the clarity that you get on life from it. Do you would you say now you're like at total peace with everything?
So here's the thing, right? I didn't understand what peace was. I came down to Mexico last year in May or June after my best friend of 30 years died. He was my mentor, my lawyer, and I just got divorced, and I came down here. And then I had an experience down here where I met a woman, my friend Sandy, and she just developed rapid cancer. And I ended up taking care of her for like 4 to 6 weeks. Because she didn't have any family down here or whatever. And I had to take care of her before I had knee surgery in September. And I'm still processing that because this woman came into my life, crazy bat, lovable, like, and then she was gone, man. And then she was gone. And it was like, process that. And where I am right now in my life, I had my 14th knee surgery in September of 2024. And in November, it still wasn't healed. And I went back to the surgeon and he's like, well, I have to tell you, I believe you have synovial sarcoma, and that's the reason why it's not healing. And I was like, 5 minutes later, he addressed me. He said, you're the first guy or patient that I ever gave that diagnosis to, potentially life-threatening, and you laughed in my face. And I did. Because I was like, my fourth time they told me that I was going to be treated for some kind of cancer. They were only right once with my lung, but then I still have the scars of the other 3 times. And it's a constant practice for me, right? I'm always putting myself in meditative states. I'm always listening. I understand what epigenetics is. I've been practicing epigenetics for years.
Okay, so can you explain what that is?
So epigenetics is how the body reproduces and heals itself. Okay. It's based off of placebo effect.
Okay.
Right? And what happened, I'll give you an example. I was studying epigenetics for like 2 years, and it's about developing heart and brain coherence. And here's the fascinating part, at least for me, is the heart is the brain. And most people have no clue. We have an energy field that's 8 to 10 feet. Once we tap into it, it bursts, turns on your light. And I was studying epigenetics, and it was like I was like 2 years in from my surgery and all of that, and I had to go to a 9/11 clinic in Georgia. And the doctor took X-rays, and I went after the X-rays to see her, and she just looked at me straight in the face, and she's like, "Craig, have you ever had a bad X-ray?" Now, I already been through the diagnosis. I've already been through, at that point, 6 years of dealing with this cancerous thing. And immediately I was like, whatever she's going to tell me, it's not going to affect me at all. And it ended up being, she didn't even have my paperwork. She didn't even know I had lung cancer. She didn't even know I had my surgery to move the mid and lower lobe of my right lung. So when she found that out, I was like, my biochemistry set didn't change. And I was like, this shit really works. And when you have that feeling, I just want to keep compounding it. I just want to keep compounding. I tap into when I used to live in Jamaica with no electricity, no water, how I lived in Jersey City, renovating one of the buildings in the middle of the winter with no electricity, no water, no windows, freezing my ass off.
Yeah.
I'm always testing my boundaries, always.
Mhm.
And I believe that's what's keeping my ass alive. I believe, I developed a different way of thinking in the hopes of helping people think different. And that's what I do. And it's, to me, it's amazing. Because I tell people all the time, I'm a knucklehead from Jersey, man. If I can figure this out, people need to look deeper for themselves.
It sounds like for you, the sky's the limit,
I'm giddy like a little kid.
Yeah.
I was just on a podcast on a panel for 2.5 hours before, and it was like, I'm here. I'm doing 60 podcasts in the next 30 days.
Yeah.
All around the world.
Incredible.
And I find it just like very humbling. Very humbling. It really is.
It is talking about your story and your journey. It is very humbling. And would you consider yourself in remission?
No, I don't have cancer.
Oh, so
it's not remission. So like I've been procrastinating my whole life. I got the laziest cancer, right? It took years to develop. Yeah, no, this shit was so slow. It was like right up my alley.
You're like, of course it is.
It took years to develop. And it's like, it's not about remission, because I believe you have cancer or you don't. There's no like remission, because if you're dealing with remission, in my experience and in the 9/11 community, it means that is based off of whatever thing they're going to do to you, whatever pharmaceutical link that they're going to present, whatever chemo, whatever treatment and all of that. That's why all of those stages are staged that way, because it's a procedural thing. Because I have a buddy of mine right now, he had stage 4. It metastasized in a couple organs, his lungs, his kidney, his pancreas. And he went through a couple rounds of chemo and did some other therapies, and he's cancer free. He's got no cancer cells.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And it's just like, he was just on death's door. I was on death's door.
Yeah.
Numerous times. And it's like, I think when you no longer fear death, you start to live.
Wow. That's powerful. Yeah.
I tell people all the time, cancer is one of the best things that ever happened.
You do so much to make yourself strong up here. What are you physically doing anything? Diet? Are you doing anything?
I'm pure carnivore now.
Okay.
I had some white blood cell issues for the last 6-8 months. Type 2 diabetic. I have nerve damage. I have Barrett's esophagus. I have GERDs. I'm always on the lookout, because I still have a spot on my lung, on my remaining lobe of my lung. So I'm always looking at that, but not looking at it like, oh my God, it's going to come back. I don't care if it comes back or not. I'm not afraid to die. I think God's got a funny sense of humor, and when I do meet him, I'm going to have a conversation with his ass. I look at life entirely different now.
Yeah.
Entirely different. And my daughter has witnessed everything.
Yeah.
I had 30 surgeries and procedures since 2017. I had one knee ablation where I had 2 or 3 blood clots, and they were going to think about taking my leg off. She's witnessed me. I used to be a high-end earner, and I ended up going bankrupt. There was some days I couldn't even pay the electric bill.
You've had several multi-million-dollar.
Well, it's just a progression of entrepreneurship, and I believe being an entrepreneur from a little kid helped me kick cancer's ass mentally.
Yeah.
And then I think beating cancer helped me be a better entrepreneur. So whenever I run into obstacles now, there's 2 things that I say. I don't have cancer, and this is nothing to a giant. And my daughter's 19. She watches everything that I do.
Right. When you're coaching, because I know, you said, as you said, you coach people all over the world. And I know I don't want to use the word coach, but what did we say? You're a transformational consultant, which I love. Where did you start? Like, if I called you and I'm like, I need to talk to you, maybe you can help me. Like, where do you start with people?
So I give everybody 15 minutes, and it's not about like, I used to want to save the world, but I know I can't. Right. And I also know I can't coach a lot of people, because it's more like a high intensity kind of thing. I have to look at people's body language, because whatever they're saying is 7% of whatever they're trying to express. 93% is body language, facial tics, like all of that shit.
Right.
And I just I listen to what people say, because everything is neurological linguistic programming. So if people aren't ready, I don't take their money. There's nothing on my website where you can put a Visa or MasterCard in, because it's an application kind of thing. I'm not going to take somebody's money if I can't help them. I'm not going to take somebody's money if they need a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
Yeah.
Big difference. No, there is a big difference.
Gotta be the right fit.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's got to be somebody that is, for the most part, 40s, from 40s to 70, 80, right? Because you have to go through certain things in this world, right? To understand, like, say a guy's 50 years old. He's got the kids through college, right? He's busted his ass in his business, and he's looking at his wife going, who the hell are you? And he's looking at himself going, what did I just experience for 30 years?
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm unfulfilled. Now we tap into that. Why are you happy? Why are you unhappy? Why are you unfulfilled? And it's about a story that is holding everybody back. It's the emotional attachment to past circumstances and events that hold people back. And there's always one story. And what I'll do in 15 minutes is give somebody a takeaway as we unpackage their story. And then if they're interested, then I'll coach them. If not, no big deal. I'm giving you a takeaway. That's it.
Yeah.
I love giving people 15 minutes though.
Yeah. Do you find a lot of people don't know why they're stuck or feeling? You can get in it within 15 minutes. You can get.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Five or 10. And the reason why, the reason why I say that is because over the years, I've gotten very good, because I used to have like mindset meetings in Atlanta while I was battling cancer for young entrepreneurs. And then it ended up being young entrepreneurs were telling their friends, and their friends who were trafficked used to come in. So I used to get bombarded with all of this mental shit. And I had people walking out of those meetings that were puzzled for 30 years that walked out light, extremely light. Because when you're at a point where you're broken down so much, and I don't believe people are broken at all. I believe humans just need a couple frequency changes and their vibration and energy changes. But when you're walking around with this heaviness, it's easy for me and simple to figure out what their story is. And it's very basic stuff. We have to go back to being a caveman, cavewoman. Because the external world complicates. What I really do is I help people tap into the quantum field. That is something entirely different.
How long does that take?
For me?
No, like if you were coaching me to really tap into that.
To give you the opportunity, right, of looking in the mirror, taking accountability and responsibility, anywhere between 4 and 12 weeks. To give you a blueprint of who you are. And all I am is a mirrored reflection.
Yeah.
All I am. You know, people are like, oh, you helped, saved it. And I didn't save shit. They did their own work. And that's the really important part, because it's ugly. It's messy. Yeah. Right. When you're dealing with traumas, when you're dealing with sexual traumas, right, you have to know why you're going to those outward relationships, multiple partners, why you don't have, and it just keeps building and building and building. And as that happens, I've had plenty of people just curse me out and shit. Because when you're tapping into somebody that is so heavy their whole life, and now all of a sudden they're reflecting in the mirror going, fuck, I have to hold myself accountable. I have to be responsible. Oh, this shit is it's not for people that are timid.
It's not for the weak at heart, that's for sure.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But the aha moments are worth it for me. Yeah, just for somebody to actually feel that flutter where it's like, I tapped into myself. I tapped into that inner God, that energy that makes our heart pump without us thinking about it. Everybody has genius within them. Everybody has this greatness. And I feel like I don't want to be heard. I want to be felt. A couple things I put up on my board. And it's like, you can't add confidence to an insecurity. You have to subtract it, right? So it's like people are trying to build, think positive, have positive thoughts. Well, nothing's going to happen if you're still thinking, I'm a shitty person, or I'm in a bad relationship, or, it's kind of like you have to sit in that, why you did that to yourself. And it's not about the other person. Look, people do shitty things to humans, right? It's not that you're going to forgive that person. But you're forgiving yourself.
It's for you.
It's for you. It's not, you can't be 50 years old complaining about mommy and daddy still. It's
Yeah.
like, why haven't you worked on yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And I get this shit all the time. How dare you tell me? I was like, no, listen, this is a fucking dictatorship, okay? Because the shit that I know, you don't. So thinking you know and knowing you do, no, two entirely different things.
Yeah.
I know what I know, and I'm looking to express this to you so you know what you know.
Yeah.
I used to be like, oh, I'm sorry. No, fuck that, man. This is why, and this is where radical change happens, because people have to get uncomfortable being radical. That's where the change.
Do you call it kind of tough love?
No, I call it fuck you. You're coming to me, and that's why some people get freaked out. But the language that I'm using, okay, it's a disruptor. It's raw language. Harvard has done studies on this shit where you will learn exponentially faster by breaking your habit, by breaking that disruptor.
Yeah. And it sounds like your approach, you get there quicker.
You have to.
You're not sugarcoating anything. You're not, roses and butterflies. Like you've got to be.
I was trauma coaching. I'd get a call 3:00 in the morning from some woman that just got gang raped.
Yeah.
Fuck that. You got to shut that shit down immediately. Right. And it's like, it's the worst of the worst. I couldn't do that after fucking 2 years. I was battling my physical shit.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, people like, well, that's rough. That's hard. It's fucking really hard, you know, because you're looking at people at the worst of their lives, man. And this is something that is serious as a fucking heart attack, because they're relying on you to shut their shit down immediately. And I get really good at it.
Yeah.
And I know that's why I'm here.
And you're worth it. You're worth it you owe that to yourself to do this work, Do you find there's more, and I know we're coming up on our time and I want to talk about a couple other things, but do you find men are more resistant than women, or does it really not matter?
So like, I've tapped into a lot of like masculine energies in females, feminine energies in males. So if I could figure out the balance, I can cut right through the bullshit, because there's a lot of women like they're big dick energy. There's women that are just so goddamn tough, and that's the ego and pride blocking that shit. And when it comes to guys, it's about them realizing it's okay to be vulnerable. Right?
Yes.
Right. Vulnerability is not, and through cultures and shit where it's like vulnerability is a weakness. No, that's a strength. We're human beings. We're emotional creatures. So if you can tap into that, you can cross cultures. And that's fascinating to me.
That's where the magic happens.
Nobody laughs or cries in a different language. And this is what we start to understand.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's so profound. So how can people get a hold of you, Craig? Because I know you're on.
I direct everybody to my website, CraigSakowski.com. And it's got all my social media. It's got like my book. It's got my story. It's got what I could do for people, and how to attempt to help them. And like I said, there's no Visa or MasterCard shit that you can't plug in. I'm not that dude, man. It's got to be the right fit.
They reach out to you to schedule that 15-minute consult, or can
they just put their info in my website.
Okay.
Yeah. And nothing is automated.
Perfect.
I retrieve all the information myself. I do all of that shit myself because I walk them through a process. Right.
And what
I want to know who I'm coaching.
And it sounds like depending, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you able to customize it?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Depending on that.
There's basic core modalities, right? And when you're, because everybody's looking for something else. Everybody's looking for something different, right? Some people want to excel at entrepreneurship. Some people want to excel at being a mom. Some people want to excel at being a dad. Some people want to just get out of their bullshit. So it's tailored to the person. And that's why, like, when I do an hour session, it takes me 3-4 hours to process all that shit. And then next time I'm leading them into, what they reviewed and all of that shit. And it's just, for me, it's really rewarding.
Yeah. Well, especially when you get to witness those aha moments. And like you said, it's just a mirror. You're just a mirror of those moments for them,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. I think when people reach out to you and you have like such a unique approach, which I think is so needed, because traditional therapy, I mean, it works for a lot of people, but it's not that. There's a lot of talking in circles for a long time, and you don't
And I
have that
tell everybody
approach.
I'm not a therapist.
You're not.
I'm not a
And
therapist, man. I'm
yeah,
a mindset consultant.
you're a transformational consultant, as we discussed. This has been incredible. I think people, getting to know you and your approach and what you've been through, and you've been through this several times yourself through life. I think, people are going to feel safe to reach out to you and at least just have a quick conversation
Give
just to
everybody
see
15
if it's a
minutes.
good fit. Because like you said,
Absolutely.
you'll tell people, no, you need to see a psychologist, or you need this type of a person. I don't know if I can help you. So I think that's really refreshing, to let people know that. So if you're listening, at least have that first 15-minute call with Craig. Thank you so much for being on this. You are officially part of the Trauma Rockstar family. Thank you so much. But I really thank you for being on this.
Thanks for the opportunity of sharing
This
my
has
story.
been great.